So, hi.
Hello.
So, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. Trying to make the most of the quarantine at the moment.
Yeah, completely. We're here locked down all in India, and
I really,
yeah, completely. We're trying to make the most out of it.
yeah, definitely. Same here. The UK is pretty much in lockdown as well.
Okay, so you're the head of doing stuff with super rare games, right? So we would
Yeah,
like
that's me.
we would like to know more about you and your business model. Please go on.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, Super Rare Games is a video games company. We basically work with small video games companies who make video games.
Okay.
But we basically give them support to release their game as a physical version. So we basically specialize in taking a game that before you would just download. So it'd be a game that maybe you would, the same way on your phone, you might have like an application, but you don't actually have a physical version.
Okay.
We basically work with these companies to create physical versions of their games that the fans of their games can have on their shelf as like a nice item to sort of celebrate the game. So we basically work with Nintendo, who are one of the
Okay.
biggest video games companies, and we work with small companies who make video games all over the world, and we try and support them and help them sort of reach a new audience and actually make more money by selling this physical version of a game, basically.
Okay. So, how did this idea strike upon you? Like, is there any specific event that gave rise to this venture?
Yeah, so I was always obsessed when I was younger with a few things. I was obsessed with buying clothes, and I was
Okay.
obsessed with a trading card game called Yu-Gi-Oh! And both of them had very interesting ideas. And I basically wanted to take those ideas and move that into video games, which is what I loved as well. So to give a bit more information about that, so I used to buy a lot of clothes called from a company called Palace and a company called Supreme. And basically, what they did is they only made a certain amount of t-shirts and they sold them. But
Okay.
these t-shirts would sell out very, very quickly because they only made a certain amount of those. So what I did is I took that concept and I transferred that into video games where we basically, our name, Super Rare Games, comes from this idea that we only print a few thousand copies of each game we release. So it keeps it very rare and it keeps it very valuable. And these games end up selling on eBay and other websites for a lot of money afterwards because they're so rare. And
Yeah.
that kind of makes it quite interesting and quite fun for people to collect and purchase these games.
Absolutely.
So I took the ideas from these clothing brands, and I took the ideas from a lot of trading card companies where you want to have a full collection of stuff. And we
Okay.
took those ideas and we combined those into what we love, which is video games, and tried to sort of make that work. And luckily, so far, it's worked really well.
All right. That's great. So, developers approach you then.
Yeah, so it varies between two different things. So if there's a small company making a video game, either I see the game online and I really like the look of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I approach them and say, hey, here's an idea. We want to work with you on this physical release. Um, and a lot of times developers see our work because we've worked on so many games now that they might see one of their friends' games we've released
Yeah.
or a game that they really like we've worked on so that they come to us. Um, I would say the majority of the time we go to them, but there's still a lot of times that people come to us as well.
Okay. Okay. So, do you offer club membership as well?
Yeah, so we've got like this membership club, which is basically for like our hardcore audience who want to buy every single game. And they pay a little bit every year. They pay about 25 pounds a year. And they basically get access to special things with us. So they get to have their games early. They get to make sure they never miss out on a game because our games can sell out quite quickly.
Yeah.
The last two games have sold out in about 20 hours. So it sells out quite quickly. So basically, they can guarantee a copy, basically. So we have this kind of membership club and we have a special newsletter where people can talk to us, and a special Discord server where people can interact with us on a daily basis. And yeah, that lasts for a year basically. And we've currently got about 850 members, which is really cool.
Okay. So, you've got a great base of collectors, isn't it?
Yeah, really good fan base. On our mailing list, I think we've got so our total club membership, our total membership, not just our club, we have around about 30,000 people, which is really, really good.
Okay. So, marketing and making decisions, how do you do it all?
Yeah, so marketing wise, we split it into a few different categories. So we have influencer marketing. So we work with a lot of people who already have a big following, whether that's on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. And what we say to them is, we'll give you free copies of the game if you can help promote us. So from that, when you have a product that people are really interested in, so we find people who have interest in the sort of products we work on. And we might say to them, yeah, here's a few copies of the game. Can you try and make a video on it? And they will. So that kind of helps us reach a new audience because they're helping market our products. We also work with a lot of journalists. So these journalists will help cover our game, whether this is, writing articles about us or doing interviews with us. So that helps a lot as well. And then obviously we have social media channels as well because we post a lot on all the social media channels on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and a lot of people interact with us and they might tell their friends about us, and that whole kind of word of mouth spreads very quickly. And with us, our audience isn't the biggest audience in the world, but the audience is so passionate about what we do. And these are people that want to buy every single game. They want to help support us. They want to help support video game developers. So whilst it's not the biggest audience, it's a very, very engaged audience. So yeah, they're kind of the three ways that we kind of market stuff, basically.
Okay, great. So your main target remains the Switch, whereas the other companies often keep it around PS4 and stuff like that. So why do you exclusively stick to that?
So for us, it was a few different reasons. So when we looked at the market, we realized that the Nintendo Switch is the biggest market for this sort of collectible item. So the PS4 isn't as big an audience. It's a much smaller audience in terms of, it's weird. So the PS4 is a much bigger console than the Switch. However, people that want to buy these physical products, they're less interested. It's more with Nintendo. So we basically wanted to get our branding right, and we wanted to focus on the Nintendo Switch because that's what we felt the biggest potential was for the market. One of my analogies I like to use is it's the same thing with restaurants, basically, the way I see it with us. If you go to an Italian restaurant, you go to it for Italian food. So for us, we wanted to be a Nintendo Switch company so that people come to us for Nintendo Switch products. We wanted to make sure that, for example, let's say we released lots of different consoles. We have a PS4, an Xbox One, and a Switch kind of community. What happens then is you have a split audience, which means that when we post a tweet about a Nintendo Switch game, not everyone is interested in that because some people might be more interested in Xbox or PS4. So what we decided is if we have this very clear outline to what we do, which is we help release physical products for the Nintendo Switch, we realized that would help us kind of get our brand image really, really well. And especially for a startup company, it was important that we had our branding correct and we focused on one thing, basically. And obviously, as we expand and as we grow, we can assess all these different markets, basically, and see if we want to, make a slightly different company to handle PS4 releases or PS5 releases and things like that.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing to be one of a kind, and you definitely are one of them. So how do you plan on expanding this business, and taking it forward?
Yeah, so it's interesting because with Super Rare Games, it's a very different business in the sense that it's not an easy one to scale directly. So with us, it's about signing bigger and better games. It's about signing games that, rather than selling 4,000 copies, could sell 10,000 copies. So it's about trying to get bigger and bigger titles, work with more interesting developers, get sort of games that people really, really, really love. Can we expand into, work with indie developers, but can we work with bigger companies? Can we work with, these massive corporations of video games to help support them as well? So for us, it's about having a bigger portfolio full of different sorts of clientele. So that's one way we can grow quite easily. So we also went from releasing 12 games a year last year to doing 18 games a year this year. So we're expanding kind of the amount of games we're doing. I don't imagine that will expand much more because it's important we don't release too much products. But for us as well, that's one way of growing. I think other ways of growing are doing extra things alongside releases, whether that's like a vinyl soundtrack or we add extra, figurines and stuff to a release to make it more special, which obviously generates more income and can help sort of grow our brand as well. And then the other ones are looking into other consoles and looking to expand into those. So the new generation of consoles is coming out later this year with the PS5 and the Xbox X series. So with that, that's something that we might be looking into to see if we can release on other consoles and see if that's a good way of expanding. But for now, so we're into our third year now. So for us, it's about having a year of stability and building on what we've done at the moment. And then next year, we'll be looking to see how can we expand this venture to cover more angles, basically.
Okay. So why did you focus on building a company of your own than, just going for a job?
Yeah, so when Super started, I did have a job. So I was working full time. For me, kind of, I think there's a certain nice part about working for yourself. For me, I work in a very, I would say, different way to how a lot of other people work. So I wake up quite late. I work till quite late. So I'm a bit of an evening sort of person. So I work very, very late in the evenings, just because I feel more comfortable like that. I'm an evening person. And with a full-time job, you don't really have that flexibility as much. So generally, I'll start work about 11 o'clock in the morning, and finish work about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock sometimes.
Right.
So that flexibility is very, very good. And for me as well, it's about doing something that I'm passionate about. Now, I'm very lucky. Working in video games in general is a fun industry.
Yeah.
So working for myself and having this kind of own business is very cool. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, in the future, I can imagine myself working in the company again when Super Rare maybe quietens down or it's sold or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, for now, that flexibility is a lovely feature.
Okay. So what has been the biggest challenge for you so far?
I think it was a starting period, because whenever you start a business, you're starting at zero. You're starting with no audience, no one knows you.
Yeah.
And that's the most challenging thing. It's about trying to get people to know who you are, for people to trust you, because they need to know that actually, if I spend money with you, I'm going to get something out of it. So that's the hardest bit, is building that trust, building that audience, and establishing yourself. And the other thing as well is, if you approach a developer and you want to partner with them, you come with a proposal.
Yeah.
They don't know who you are. They don't know what work you've done before, because you haven't done any work before. So it's that establishment. It's that first few months or first year, even just trying to establish yourself, gain trust, gain a community. That's the most difficult thing, and that comes from being a very honest, being a very transparent company, working, supporting developers and coming with this idea and trying to support them and understand your vision.
Yeah.
And then the community stuff is about doing the correct work to build that community, finding those key influencers, finding the press outlets that want to cover you, and from there, being I think that's kind of the most challenging thing, really.
All right. So if you're not on the Switch, what are you probably doing?
Good question. Two things. I play a lot of football, so I'm always playing football or soccer. Always playing it, always watching it. That's one of my biggest obsessions. And then the other one is playing chess. I play chess all the time. I'm completely obsessed with it as well. I've got lots of chess boards in my room, and I play a lot of online chess, a lot of chess in person. So it's quite difficult at the moment, because both football and chess are currently not happening because of the coronavirus, which is a shame. So I'm currently just sitting in my room working and playing the Switch.
Okay. So as an amateur entrepreneur, is there any decision that you regret making and you would like to go back in time or amend it?
Yeah, I think when Super Air first started, I would say, I think I often look at the emails that I sent when I was younger, because it's weird. So Super Air started when I was 19 and I'm now 21. And it's very interesting to see the way I've matured and developed over that time. So if I had to change anything, I think I would probably change the way I used to send emails. I think I was very informal, and I don't think I was as professional as I could have been. Luckily enough, I think it was still enough to sort of get trust of people. And I think video games is quite a relaxed industry in general, but I would say my professionalism when I was younger isn't as good as it is now. But I think part of that is growing up, and part of that is learning as you expand stuff. But definitely, I wouldn't say there's like a decision that I wasn't happy with, because I think everything's been pretty good so far. But definitely my professionalism, I think when I was younger, the way I sent emails, I was a bit more informal, maybe didn't give as much information as I could have done. And what I would say is it's important to learn around with people around you and ask for advice. And I think it's important as anyone to always accept that there are people that know more stuff than you about certain industries or certain things. So even now, lots of my team will know a lot more than I do, and it's important to trust them and give them the responsibility to make those decisions as well.
Okay. So what's the vision for this year? What are you aiming to, achieve by the end of 2020?
I think so. For me, it's just always about constant growth and getting bigger and better as a company.
Mm-hmm.
So being more efficient, being able to, being more effective and efficient as a company. For me, it's about trying to. So we're always working ahead of schedule. So for example, this year we've already got all the games signed up that will release this year. So for me, on a personal level, this year is about trying to get really, really interesting products for next year and making sure 2021 is our biggest year yet in terms of the quality of games we release.
Okay.
In terms of like in the short term, in terms of what we want to achieve this year, it's just about continuing to do what we do, which is to make fans really happy by working with really cool developers. So I'd say this year is definitely about consistency and building on what we've done so far. And then on the other side of things, to acquire more interesting products for next year, basically.
Okay. Well, we hope you get there pretty soon. So what's your most valued recognition?
Say again, my most valued recognition.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I would say the coolest thing was being on the Forbes under 30 under 30 list. That for me was really, really, really cool. And I was very, very honored to be on that list. I still don't think I deserved it, to be honest.
We completely agree. You definitely have to be there, and we congratulate you for that. It's, great thing, great respect to you.
Thank you. And I think it was more like, it was quite weird looking at the list and looking who else I was around and just thinking, these people are so much cooler than me. How am I here? There was two different lists I was on. There was a list for video games and sports, and there was a list for the youngest people in this year's nominations. And the people that I was with were like a lot of pop stars and rock stars, and then one of the other persons was Greta Thunberg, kind of climate change activist who I'm a big fan of. So yeah, seeing my name next to her was like, what? That doesn't make sense. So yeah, that was definitely for me my proudest achievement so far.
Okay, so we're often, tired and, handling things all by ourselves. So we think of giving up. So what keeps you buckled up?
I think it's, for me, like always what I say about anyone kind of starting their own business or being involved in it, you just have to love what you do. If you love what you do, then that feeling of giving up becomes a lot easier to deal with because there's always something you're passionate about. So for me, every time we work on a game, I'm really passionate about that. I release games that I love and games that I want to see physically. And the way I describe myself is I'm almost my own or our own customer. I love receiving the products. And if Super Rare was existing, I would be buying these games. This is what I love doing. So I think you have to be your own number one fan. As a company, you got to be your number one fan. So I think having that passion and that drive to do things comes from that love of the thing you're doing. I think that's a very, very important thing. You've got to completely love what you do. And, when you start a business, you do have to put a lot of work in. When Super Rare started, I was working crazy hours. I had a full-time job and I'd come home and I'd be working all night, just trying to get things done and work on things. All my lunch breaks would be working on it. All my weekends would be working on it. So I think you just have to have that complete love and drive of things. And I think when you get down about it and you feel like giving up, I think that you always have to then bring it back a step and just say, well, actually, I love what we do. I'm a big fan of our products. So therefore, I just want to keep doing this. So I say that's my number one tip. You just got to love what you do.
Okay. So obviously, when you work hard, you deliver more than what is expected out of you. So who's your role model?
Good question. So I would say probably, I'll give two answers. So there was a guy that used to run Nintendo called Reggie, and he's the coolest guy, and he was the most genuine, lovely guy. He was a massive gamer. Used to run Nintendo. He stepped down recently. So yeah, he was a big role model for me. It's always amazing to see him talk. He was so passionate about Nintendo. And I think one day my future aspiration was to be in a similar role to him. And then as well, my dad, who works in video games as well, he motivated me to want to work in video games, and growing up alongside video games from him, that was always really good as well.
Okay, so finally, would you like to share some piece of advice with all the budding entrepreneurs out there?
Yeah, I think I'd probably go back to my other point, which is basically you have to love what you do. And if you don't love what you do, and if you're in it for the wrong reasons, then it's going to be very, very difficult to make work. If money is your motivation, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to get something off the ground, because as I said, you have to put in so much work and so much time into something. And if you don't have that, that absolute love for something, it's going to be very, very difficult to sort of get into it in a place. I think if you see it as a 9 to 5 job, in the sense that you'll work those hours and then it's done, that's not what it is starting a small business. Like for me, for example, my phone is always beeping because I have messages from fans, I have people talking to us on Twitter, people emailing me. There's always something going on. And for me, I enjoy responding to these. I don't see that as work. I don't see anything of what I do as work. I see it as fun stuff that I'm helping grow this business that I love. I see Super Rare Games as almost like an extension of myself. I see it as, I have sort of on my phone, I have two things on my Twitter. I have my Super Rare Twitter and I have my personal Twitter. And I'm on my Super Rare Twitter more than I am my personal one, just because I love interacting with the audience. So yeah, I think it all comes down to, you have to love what you do, and you have to see it as not being work, but being as fun. And if you have that, then things are going to be a lot easier. So I'd say the key thing is find something that you love, find something that you're really passionate about, aside from business, just find something that you love in life, and work out how you can grow that into something unique and something interesting, and just keep pushing with that, and it'll work out if you love it.
Yeah, that's a word. So ending on that note, at Teenager Startups, we are creating an immersive world for all the young entrepreneurs. And George, you've definitely made a huge difference. Thank you for connecting with us. You were a great sport. Keep hustling.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye. Have a great day.
Bye. Thanks.